Hey Pack, I debated on whether I wanted to do a longer video touching upon what I mentioned in my story 2 days ago, which talks about how obedience won't fix your dog's issues. And clearly I've decided that I wanted to elaborate on that because I got a bunch of messages about it. And so I want to make sure owners or even dog trainers who follow me have a clear understanding of what I'm talking about when I talk about how obedience doesn't fix anything. Obedience gets talked about almost exclusively in dog training, meaning dog training is teach the dog a physical position, sit, heel, place, all of those things, and that's what's going to fix the relationship that you have with your dog. Unfortunately, it won't. Dog training doesn't even talk about the relationship you have with your dog. They just talk about, well, what are you rewarding? Do you make the dog heel? Do you make the dog sit before you leave? Do you make your dog sit before they eat? Do you, are they physically sitting or laying down in the crate or on place? And all of that does not address how your dog feels and how you feel. So I'm going to go in depth so everyone has a clear understanding of where I use obedience, where I think it's beneficial, and where I think it's really failing people. This is just my opinion. A lot of my thoughts are not even my own. They're just an accumulation of experiences and working with different colleagues and mentors and observing. So this isn't to say you're not going to hear this from someone else, but this is my interpretation of it. This is how I practice in my business, and this is how I work with my clients. So when it comes to obedience, where I use it is when I'm working with specific dogs in specific homes. I'll give you an example. For some dogs who tend to rush the door or they tend to get in trouble when they're free roaming, I introduce something like place to limit the free roaming, where the dog is still able to be a part of the environment, but is not directly interacting in the environment. The difference between the way that I do place and the way a dog trainer might do place is dog trainer says, use food, get the dog to stay on place, punish them for getting off. I don't use food when I'm teaching place typically, and I don't punish the dog for getting off of place because I care more about how the dog feels on place. Meaning, I want place to mean relaxation. I want it to mean calmness. I want it to be a place where the dog touches place and they have the association of just going into relaxation. Now, there's a lot of people who do use food as a part of place. I mean, I've used it before. I've used it to create a more strong positive association with dogs who are extremely fearful, but I don't use it for long. I don't really use it after the first session. And I ask for the behavior first, and I give the food after. And what that might specifically look like is if a dog is not willing to go on place, I don't have a piece of food. I'm not holding the food out in front of the dog's face, trying to bribe it to get onto the place. What I would do is I would use leash pressure along with how I feel and how I'm making the dog feel to get the dog to go on to the place bed. After they were on the place bed, then I can reward that. So when it comes to obedience and food rewards, I ask for the behavior first and then the reward. And that's how all good obedience should be. You shouldn't be trying to stick some food in your dog's face and asking them to sit after you had the food already out. That's a whole other thing that I can get to later on. If you are seeing a trainer or somebody who does dog behavior and they're like, well, you just need to teach your dog a better heel, or they just need to learn leave it better, or they just need to down stay, they need to sit stay. I deal with dogs every day who already know down, they already know sit, they already know those commands, but yet psychologically they're still fucked up. So why is that? Why doesn't obedience address the state of mind of the dog? Because when you reward a dog, and reward can look like moving forward. The reward can look like food. It could be affection. It could be a toy. A reward could be release of pressure, meaning spatial pressure. Terms like reward are ambiguous too. Relationship, reward, punishment, correction. I have posts on that on my website if you're curious to understand those definitions. It'd be hard for me to define every single thing in this video. But when you ask for a dog to sit and they're still excited, you rewarded a physical position, sit, but a mental state, excited. If you ask your dog to lay down, like if your dog has crate anxiety, I see this a lot. If your dog has crate anxiety and the second they get in the crate, you're asking them to lay down. They lay down, but then the second you close the door and you turn away, they start whining and barking. I don't even ask for a sit or a down in the crate because I want to know how the dog is actually feeling. If I force the dog to down in a crate, how does that fix their state of mind? It doesn't. It doesn't fix it. You have just created a situation where the dog learns to sit or down. They did not go into relaxation. You did not achieve calmness. You didn't achieve what you were actually trying to create. And so when people are like, well, should I ask them to sit? I'm like, I don't know. Does that create calmness for the dog? When you tell your dog to sit, is that associated with relaxation, or is that associated with you're going to praise them and give them food? So when it comes to obedience, I do not care if the dog is sitting, downing, healing, any of that shit. I focus on calmness first, the state of mind first. If you have a dog who's calm, they're not going to be pulling, they're not going to be aggressive, they're not going to be fearful, they're not going to be destroying stuff, they're not going to be whining and barking, they're going to be calm. So obedience will not fix the poor relationship you have with your dog. It's not going to fix the fact that you started your relationship out by giving them too much affection and you feel sorry for them. It's not going to fix the fact that you don't follow through and you're not consistent every day. It's not going to fix the fact that you tense up every time you see another dog. Obedience won't fix the fact that you have other people interacting with your dog and they're not doing the same things with the same energy that you're doing. And so when you focus on sit down, heel, and all of that other BS, you will continually fail. I see it every day. I see it all the time. I always tell clients, I'm never the first stop on the train, but I am the last stop, because I'm focusing on your relationship with your dog, how you make your dog feel, and how you're feeling about your dog. There's nothing that obedience, there's no technique or tool that I can give you or show you that's going to fix the way you make your dog feel. Those are your daily interactions with the dog. How you allow your dog to come into your space. Does your dog walk over to you and you pet them, or do you invite them over? Do you step over your dog when they're in the kitchen and you're in your way? Can you create space when you're having food with your dog? The first thing in the morning, are you immediately cuddling your dog and giving them affection? Do you follow through when your dog makes a mistake, or do you only sometimes do that? A lot of times, this is gonna be a long one. A lot of times I hear, like specifically like recall and things like that. Well, sometimes they'll come back. Or if there's not a lot going on, they'll come back to me. Or if there's not a lot of distraction, the dog will listen to me. Okay, well, your dog isn't trained and you need to go back to step one, okay? Because it doesn't matter if there's no distractions and your dog is sitting or downing or recalling. The only time it matters is when there is distractions. So you just be real with yourself. You don't have any control over your dog. You think that for a portion of the time you do, but in reality, when it counts, your dog does not respond to you, just doesn't respect you in that way. And so we're getting a little bit off as far as obedience goes, but obedience should be secondary to the dog's state of mind. And you're going to see when you focus on creating calmness, only rewarding calmness, only moving forward out of a threshold when the dog is calm, only feeding, only giving affection, only releasing from the crate when they're calm. If you reinforce that every step of the way, I promise you, obedience won't even be a factor. I did not have to teach my dogs obedience for them to be well behaved. Larry Crone touches upon this a lot, where he talks about the fact that the behavior comes first. The obedience training is just a very, very small portion of that. It can be fun. Obedience is fun when you're trying to teach a dog tricks, but I view obedience closer to trick training than actual behavior training. So I appreciate you guys watching this. If you have any questions about, what do you mean by this, or you feel like anything I said was ambiguous, please reach out to me or someone else that you look up to and trust. Ask us to explain those terms, especially the terms of relationship or state of mind or calmness or any of those things. Let us know that you have questions, And hopefully, you know I'm going to answer them as best as I can, but hopefully whoever you reach out to is going to answer them as well.